Oh, we gotta get this. I'm looking all crispy, and we're not even recording the Skype.
Oh, yeah.
What's the point of being so crispy if the people out there can't see me, Jared?
That's what I say. What's the point of being so crispy if you can't
That's true.
take a bite?
That's right.
There's a new untranslatable right
If you
there.
can't stay breezy, at least stay crispy. One or the other, you know?
Maybe it was best that they didn't hear that.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not.
All right.
Well, can you get that theme song going? Well, hello and welcome to the Untranslatable Podcast. We are here today to talk about country living and city life. So it'll be a fun episode today to talk about, do you prefer to live in the country or in the city, and why? And I think Jared and I both have extensive experience with both of them. That is for sure. And we're going to dig into some of our own personal experiences and our thoughts. And I'm just going to preface and say that both can be good for a lot of reasons, but they might not be great for you. So hopefully through our discussion today, we can bring you some insight and you'll know where you can live happily ever after. So without further ado, my partner in crime and my city pal, Jared. What's going on, Jared?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm partial city, I'm a partial city right now. But yeah, the ideal, we all know, the ideal is obviously to have the lifestyle where you can have like a like a place in like a condo in Chicago or New York or something, and then like a ranch out in like Nashville or something, or like in Wyoming. You just have people that just have
Montana.
land.
Yep. Yeah.
You should come out
dude.
to my property or my land. People that speak in those terms.
Right. Oh, I mean that's the point where you really want to get to, without a doubt, Jared. Yeah,
It's not coming to my house. It's coming to my property.
Why is it though? Like, come to my cabin. Which one's creepier? Come to my cabin or come to my cottage? I guess my cabin, right?
For some reason, cottage is creepier to me.
Or is cottage creepier?
Cabin
Okay.
seems a little more like what you're in right now. Could be
Right.
like
I mean,
some
that
rich
is
person
where I
pretending
am,
they have a cabin.
Yeah, I decided, Jared, for this episode, it would only be proper to spend some time really out in the boonies in the country. I took an overnight road trip. I'm way out in some undisclosed mountains. This is a top secret location. I'm not allowed to tell you or the listeners today, but yeah,
And then when you're teaching the children of in Vienna, you're like, oh no, I love the city in Vienna. I love the culture. I love having a little apartment here in the first district, because of course you would.
Balling out, son. That's right. Better believe it. You better
But
believe
if I want to get away, I go to my land.
That's right. Out in Steiermark,
In,
the
Steiermark.
greenest part of Austria.
I have some
man, dude,
property
if I
out
could
there
get-
with some horses.
Right. Thomas Müller style, get some horses.
Does he have horses?
I think his wife, like, that's what she does for a living. Is something
That's a real like
equestrian
rich
related.
European white thing. Horses.
Oh,
I mean,
for
rich white
sure.
thing in general, but I feel like
yeah.
Europeans really like horses.
I don't know, dude. I think there's a lot of country folk that like horses
That's
too.
true. I don't know what I'm
got
talking
the rodeo.
about. I don't know what I'm talking about. That's true.
That's right.
Hey, since we're here, did we ever do an intro? I don't remember. We did? Yeah, we did. Spread a little love. Follow us. I literally totally forgot that we did that song. Follow us on Instagram, Untranslatable Podcast. We're in our remote setups today, which is rare. I'm actually here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get us on full screen, and I'm going to take a picture of us for the gram. Follow us on the gram, Untranslatable Podcast. You'll see us in a rare remote location. And that's because I'm doing the right thing and socially distancing from Chad for quarantine period, because I've been exposed and I can't confirm.
Well, you haven't been exposed.
That's true. That's true. I should really
Be
think
careful
about my
what you
wording.
say there, Jared. Yeah, you're gonna get some like
I
calls
have
from
not
your
been
family
exposed.
after this
I've
episode
not been
drops.
exposed. We had guests that flew here, and
Right.
just to be safe, But anyway, also follow us on Twitter, Untranslatable1, the number one. See what
Numero uno.
see what ridiculousness I'm tweeting about, I'll actually bring up some ridiculous I just tweeted about the other day in a second. 5-star reviews would be nice.
You better believe it.
On iTunes, we actually did get one new one I saw. And to be fair, I only see the American ones really because to see ones from other countries, you kind of have to dig deep, and it just takes time. But it is nice to see the number grow, no matter how slowly it is. It would be even nicer to see it grow quickly too. You could also email us untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com. Give us some untranslatables or something. Tell us which you prefer, country or city live in, and say hi. Chad, big news here in the United States. Now, this is being recorded on Sunday, and I say that to say that today, TikTok and WeChat is being banned from being downloaded in the United States app stores.
Yep.
I'm sure you knew that.
Oh, yeah. Yep, it's a bummer. It is a bummer. I don't have a lot of good things to say about it, to be honest. I think it's more of a business move. I don't know, though. I don't know enough about like the back end of that stuff to really say. But yeah, I thought
business
though,
or political.
I think it's probably both.
Okay.
Oh wait, right here though. I don't know if you heard about this, Jared, but this is what sorry, Jared. Sorry to do this
Hot
to
off
you.
the
This
presses.
was just an hour ago.
If you're gonna
just an hour ago, I
don't have me
Googled
on these
this.
streets lying.
That's true. Well, it wasn't lying. It was just we didn't have all the current news, but this was from an hour ago. Federal court issues preliminary injunction halting Trump administration's ban of Chinese app WeChat. The order came in response to a lawsuit
But not TikTok.
filed by a group of WeChat. Oh, that's true. I don't really care.
But I'll
about
say
TikTok.
this. I was going to say WeChat is probably way more important than TikTok.
Right.
I have a coworker, like my company, does business in China, and I have a coworker that uses WeChat to communicate with work people over there.
Yep.
And she's like, "This is the
WeChat
easiest way to get in touch with them."
Right. Listen to this right here, Jared. WeChat had about 3.3 million monthly active users in the United States as of August. I am one of those 3.3 million monthly users.
3.3.
How do you think I contact my students?
3.3 million?
3.3 million monthly active users in the United States.
Oh, in the United
August.
States. I was like, it's got to be more than that.
No, in China, it's way more
I
than
was
that.
about to say.
It was funny. I asked my students last week during the lecture. I asked them, "Is it possible to live in China without WeChat?" And they all laughed and they said it's possible, but it's not really convenient. And they're right. I mean, you can pay, you can book a taxi. Check out our episode. I chat, you chat, we all chat for WeChat. I think that was the title. It was something along the lines of that.
Something like that.
Jared came up with a great title for that one.
Yeah,
but
that
yeah,
made me laugh.
But TikTok, I think it's in a way it's kind of ridiculous that. I don't know. I just don't like the fact. I don't like the idea of the U.S. government telling the Apple store or telling Apple, the company, what they are and are not allowed to have in the App Store for people to download. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I don't know the the back
what
end
happened to
of it.
freedom, Jared? You know what happened to freedom?
I don't know who. I don't know what that means about my security if I were to download TikTok. Like, am I really exposing myself to some? I don't know. But what I will say is, you're right. Like, as we're supposed to be quote unquote Americans here, and we talk about having our freedoms, and now the government is telling me what app I can and can't download. That seems a little. Like it's almost like, well, like. Here in America, the idea of communist China gets such a bad rep, and it's like, well, we're almost no better than them. We talked about the Great Wall of China, also. Excuse me, the Great Firewall of China.
Firewall, yeah.
And we're starting to build our little own one here too.
Right.
Hey, you're impeding on my freedoms, Trump.
And that's
you take away my freedoms?
A slippery slope. They start banning WeChat. What are they going to start banning next?
Exactly.
And if they are unsafe, tell us why they're unsafe.
Yeah.
And then people can make the informed decision to delete the app. It's really that simple.
And I think if they were to, and then also it would put it in the companies, because then the company would be like, well, do we want our customers, like our customers are getting turned off by this app, do we want them exposed to do we do we think it looks good on our company to have this app rather than the government saying you can't have this app? It's just a different dynamic. Like it could still lead to the same thing if they were honest with the people and the companies were like, well, that's a good point. And now that everyone knows what these apps are doing, let's just not offer it. I think that would be possible. And once again, I don't know. Maybe this is a very good thing. I don't know. The only reason I'm saying this is not even because it bothers me, because I don't have TikTok or WeChat, but it's more just because it's like, it just seems like a hypocrisy of these, like a hypocrisy when it comes to like this talk of freedoms that especially people like Trump seems to campaign on so much. And then you're banning apps. It's just I don't know. It seems almost like what is it? Not like
cognitive dissonance, right?
Is
there.
that what it is? Is that the term?
Well, and it's hypocrisy as well. I mean, it's very hypocritical to.
But then they can couch it in like the Chinese are taking over our technology. Who knows what they're doing with our information? And I don't know. It just seems like kind of scare tactic-y things that they use on the right a lot.
But I mean, any large company, I mean, Facebook, Google, all of those, they do data collection.
Of course,
I mean, I don't know.
How do they think that you Google
Untranslatable podcast,
or you Google like camping, and then all of a sudden you get a bunch of Amazon ads for tents and shit.
Right.
It's like, how do you think that happens?
And now I'm $3,000 in the hole, Jared, because I bought all this unnecessary camping equipment.
I'll say this. Sometimes I can be a bad online shopper, but I make a point not to click on like Instagram ads that like sell things. Even if I see something that's cool, which I almost never do, I'll never do, but I would probably go out of my way to find it a different way rather than click on the Instagram version of it. And I don't know, I don't know why, but yeah, it's weird. I agree that WeChat, that's I mean, the fact that a bunch of teenage children can't dance for clout on TikTok is not that concerning to me. I mean, I guess the idea of freedoms would be, but WeChat is a legitimate
communication
source
tool.
of communication,
right?
For not just children dancing on apps, but legitimate families and business and.
Right. Did I ever tell you though? We were instructed when I was a grad student at MSU to not use WeChat for any like class demonstrations or other stuff like that because that information is saved and stored.
Well, yeah. I mean, my company, like sometimes, like my department will do videos on Zoom, but they're never things that are really business related. Like anything where we're actually talking about like actual work related stuff, we're not allowed to do on Zoom. Like you have to do it on their Skype thing or whatever.
Right. That makes sense, I guess, in a way.
I mean, I guess so, but I think Zoom is like I'm not gonna say it's similar, but I think it also is like a Chinese company, isn't it?
Is it? I didn't think so. Is it? I didn't realize that. Could be. I didn't think so though.
Nope, it's an American company. All right, okay. Listen. I feel like I remember hearing something about Zoom as well.
The reason why I had a feeling it wasn't is because there is a Chinese version of Zoom that I use with my students called VooV. And that's the lecturing, like synchronous lecture tool, teleconferencing tool I use with my students.
There's a lot of business words in there.
It is a lot of
synchronous
buzzwords
lecture,
there.
Telecommunications tool.
Except there's no breakout rooms in VooV, which is a really big bummer.
Okay,
that is a bummer. I do like that in Zoom. So you can have discussions because otherwise, you have like 5 people in one room, and then one person's talking the whole time.
How's the audio on VooV? Because I will say Zoom audio is by far better than Skype, I would say. I think with microphones you sound better. If you're using like a legit microphone, we still kind of on Skype right now, we still kind of sound like we're talking on a phone a little bit,
Right.
But Zoom, I don't think is like that. Why are we talking about this? Oh yeah, because TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok
is getting.
But yeah, I wonder how that's going to work though, because from what I read, when everything was still in effect to be banned, from what I read was that if you had already had the app downloaded, it's not like the app would be erased off your phone, but you couldn't do any updates.
Right.
So
I guess for obviously if TikTok and WeChat we're probably quick enough to put out an update, in time for the new iOS that just came out. So I guess theoretically they don't like it's not a immediate concern. It is an immediate concern, but it's like, but you can't download it, but you won't lose the app. That's what it is.
right.
And so I guess people will still be using it. They'll just be using an outdated version until eventually our phones are passed to or I guess, I don't know, some new administration's like, it's fine. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
Right. Yeah.
All right, dude.
That is true. Is it time for some shout outs?
Spread a little love. I'd say
That's
so.
right.
I
think you probably know what my first one's going to be, Jared. This is going to be coming out a little late because, we recorded these episodes, beforehand, not to break the fourth wall here, but a few days ago, unfortunately, we lost the notorious RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was a very important Supreme Court justice here in the United States. I believe she died at 87. She was really fighting the good fight and did a lot of great things for women out there and for men as well in the United States. And she was really something else. So sending lots of love to her friends and family and everyone else in the U.S. Who, has been affected by her in some positive way. We really lost really a person in history. So now I'm really curious to see what's going to happen, what the kind of consequences will be of this happening.
Yeah, dude, and it's obviously it's sad to that she died, but then to me it's sad in a different way. Me, I'm the Twitter monster. It's just so sad to see people, immediately have to say like why someone is terrible or something like that. But not even that. It's more just like the people talking about like, this is what happens when you don't vote, And it's just that
Right.
her death has to come down to that is kind of sad. It's just
It's
a
unfair.
sad sign for our society, I feel like. And it's just,
Right.
Yeah. And it's just so much weight put on her to stay alive. It's like, I was like, in my head, I'm like, is that what? Seems like so much stress for your final. I don't know. It's just, it is scary too. Like it is kind of scary to see. Like this could have a long lasting effect on our the direction of our politics in the U.S.
Yeah,
and it's just a weird feeling to not know what that's going to look like.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So we're sending out a lot of love for everybody out there who has been affected by RBG, all the great things she's done.
Spread a little love. I have a shout out too, by the way.
Let's
so
hear
I
it.
actually want to get your opinion on this.
Is this a rate the apology?
No, it's not, unfortunately.
Bummer.
I actually did see an apology, and I'm like, this is a hilarious apology, but it was just some it was not a good reason to it. Like, I don't know. I didn't care enough about the reason that the person was apologizing. Lewis Hamilton, Formula One champion,
Your boy.
decides to leave his supercar collection undriven. So, 6-time Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton has a collection of supercars worth millions and millions of dollars, but he no longer drives any of them. The Mercedes driver announced this week as the new owner of a team in the electric off-road Extreme E-Series starting up next year, told reporters he was doing his best to be environmentally friendly. It's difficult because there are people who say, but you race a Formula One car around every weekend. The 35-year-old
Is that what they say, isn't it?
the 30. He actually kind of says car. I don't know. He has a anyway.
Car?
The 35-year-old Britain. Is that what you call him? Britain said on Thursday at the Tuscan Grand Prix at Italy's Mugello circuit. Some of its education, because not everyone knows the footprint that our sport currently has, and what we're doing in terms of trying to improve that. But I'm making a lot of changes in my personal life. I don't drive any of the cars that I own anymore. I only drive my electric car, EQC. Mercedes EQC crossover is what it is. That's a crossover, yeah.
Of course.
Electric Mercedes. Formula One issued a sustainability plan last year with the aim of achieving a net zero carbon footprint for the sport by 2030, it has also promised that all Formula One events will be sustainable by 2025.
That's great news.
So first of all, Formula One, like they do make a lot of steps. Like I mean, I assume you know that Formula One cars now are hybrids.
Yep.
And there's a lot of battery technology going into them and all that stuff. Obviously, there's still fire combustion engines there too, but they do. So what do you think about I was actually listening to some of my car people talk about this, and obviously it's and some people say like it's well, it's partially it's a publicity stunt because he is starting his own electric racing team, but also that like the idea of him not driving is not like it's a good image thing, but it doesn't really do anything because like him rarely driving his supercars he rarely drives in general, probably, like just normally, but like the idea of him rarely driving is not really the problem. Like what's more impressive actually is What's more impressive is that he recently, maybe within a couple years ago, he sold his private jet. That's a much bigger deal, I think.
Yeah, I would say so.
But I think visually, I feel like even though he has these crazy supercars and stuff that he's not going to drive, and it probably won't make a big difference for the environment per se. Right. Like I do think visually, like as like he's one of the most famous athletes in the world. And him saying that and only being seen in an electric car makes a difference.
I would agree with that.
Obviously, he drives a Mercedes because he races for Mercedes, so Mercedes gives him a car to market their cars with. So it's like if they're
smart
like, all right,
business
great.
from Mercedes.
Exactly. They're like, we want to market our electric cars too. So to have one of our greatest brand ambassadors say, I'm only going to be seen in electric cars will probably be a big deal in selling more electric cars. So I think in that sense, I think people underestimate the bigger effect that like such a icon has on sales of goods.
Oh, big time. And in the future, Jared, if we just do an episode with no video, you could just be Lewis Hamilton as our guest, and we'd be good to go. That was a spot-on impression.
Funny? Whenever I try to do a British accent just out of nowhere, it always ends up terrible. But if I'm imitating someone that I listen to all the time, because I watch Formula One all the time, I was pretty good. That was a pretty good Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, see, there you go. There you go. That is awesome. Well, I have one more shout out as well, Jared, for today, and it's kind of related. New Zealand plans to become the first country to require climate risk reporting. So there are other countries in the EU, European Union, that have started to do, environmental reporting. But New Zealand apparently not only do they want this, first of all, they have the zero carbon bill that has committed the country to honoring the goals of having zero carbon emissions by 2050, which is 30 years away, which is not that far away.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Right.
Is that even possible?
I think so. Zero carbon by 2050. I think so.
The shipping is the big part to me. I don't know.
Right.
Like ships are the part of the. I feel like a huge part of the problem, and I don't know how that. Like especially a place like New Zealand,
Right. But I have to say, man, I feel like New Zealand has really been on their game and doing a great job, not only with like science and climate change, but obviously with this whole COVID pandemic, they've been doing a really good job. So I think this is just really great. Another aspect too that's a little different with this is that this climate risk reporting will also include some of the financial risk as well, which I'm not 100% sure on how that works. But I think it has to do with like assets controlled and things like this.
Do you know what that means? What you just said? Assets controlled.
Well, I'm not sure
because I don't really know what you mean.
I'm not sure what specific assets they mean. I don't know.
I wonder if they're just saying like the long-term financial impact of switching over. I think is what they're saying. So like we're not just switching over without recognizing how it'll affect our economy and like how our economy is currently based off of these things that are not, contributing to this sort of green future that we're looking towards, but how we can also sustain the transition of those companies or something. I don't know. That's
so
just
the
my
assets,
guess.
Jared, would be the assets within the financial system, the current financial system. So I'm assuming some of that has to do with then, some of these big companies in resources, gas and oil, when they
Right.
move over, how will that work? Things like this, which I
Right.
think this is really fantastic, though. Shout out to New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Spread
fantastic.
love. It's getting. I meant to do this.
Brilliant.
It's getting scary out there, and visually, obviously, we have these these almost extravagant representations of what's happening to the environment through the fires or
Right.
earthquake just happened in California the other day. Stuff like that, but then also it's just like the stuff I don't know, it's I'm getting scared, dude, about the environment. But with the levels of pollution and the levels of just our oceans being destroyed. There was some company, I think, that accidentally destroyed a reef off the coast of some island recently, and they're just like, oh, sorry, and they gave them millions of dollars, but I'm like, yeah, but the reef is destroyed.
Money will not bring back
It's like
a reef.
it's like $100 million. It almost seems like
Right.
nothing for this giant company that just destroyed a reef.
Right. Yeah, that's not good.
Those don't come back, do they?
I have
I don't
no
know.
idea.
It's just I'm getting so nervous.
Right. It's scary, but Jared, one thing you can do to distract your mind from the
Yes.
collapse of our entire
Very good.
environment, world, and society are some fantastic untranslatables. And untranslatables are idioms, phrases, axioms, adverbs, words that do not translate on a one-to-one basis into English very easily. And Jared and I are your certified untranslatable experts. This is why we
my
make
God.
millions and trillions of untranslatable dollars, which sadly do not convert into U.S. dollars yet.
Some might call us cuffs. Certified untranslatable freaks.
Ooh, I like that. There we go.
7 days, 2 days a week.
2 days a week. But you can listen to us whenever you want because we got lots of episodes out there for you.
Wet ass phrases.
Jeez.
Make that
All right.
translate game weak.
Oh, jeez. All right. You don't cook, you don't clean. That's how you got that untranslatable right. No, I have no idea. Okay, Jared. My first one for you is Brazilian Portuguese, and it is Estou com a corda, which means I'm with all the rope today.
I'm with all the rope today. Is it like when I hear that? I thought I had a pen somewhere. That's why you see me looking around. Oh, here it is. When I hear that, I hear like I'm up to here. You got me up to here.
Nope.
Okay.
No, I'm with all rope today. Like, you want to go mountain biking, Jared? You want to play some soccer later?
Oh, okay. We had
I'm
a friend.
with all rope today.
We had a friend in college that we used to call him DFA, and that was down for anything. Because no matter what we said, or like, hey, you want to do this? He's like, yeah, sure, I'm down. Yeah. Oh, sounds great. No matter what was asked, he's
You
like,
should have
yeah, sounds perfect.
asked him some really crazy shit just to see what. That
Hey,
would have been so funny.
This person's really been bothering me for the past couple of months. I'm gonna go, finish him off and bury him out in the park.
Sure.
Sweet. Yeah. I'll go.
Yeah, I'm
I'll go
down.
grab my gloves, and I think I got a shovel in my trunk. Do you?
Oh, jeez. Yeah, so that's
call him
not really
DFA.
what this means, though. I'm with
good.
all the rope today.
Oh, but that's not what it is. Oh, I thought that's what it was.
No, it's like, kind of. It means
Like I'm up for
you're-
anything.
It means like you're pumped and you're full of energy. Like you'll do anything right
okay.
now.
See that I hear what you're saying.
Kind of right, but it's
I feel
not
like I'm on the
100%
right.
the
yeah.
same. Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
that'd be like a half ham horn or a 3/4 ham
Yeah,
horn.
I still haven't figured out how to do that yet. I'll
Right.
do the half.
What you need to do is you have to record a ham horn and then just bring the decibels down to half, and then
Well, that's
there
what I
you
just
go.
did. Did you even hear it?
Oh, that's a very quiet one. There we go.
Here we go.
Well, a little background ham horn. I like it.
So yeah,
Ham horn in the
my
distance.
neighbor,
That's
my
right.
neighbor's using their
He
ham
heard you
horn.
get it kind of right. He was like, "Hey, Jared."
Speaking of which, you know where my neighbor is using his ham horn from? The CR, which is used in the Philippines. The CR.
CR, is that the bathroom?
Oh yeah, jeez, that was good. You didn't even let me give you the literal, but you got it.
What is the literal?
That deserves a full ham horn. There we go. It's the comfort room.
Oh, I like that. The washroom, the comfort room,
the water closet,
the loo.
Yeah,
there's lots of good ones for bathroom.
Restroom.
Yep.
Comfort room is an odd one.
I like comfort room though.
You like it?
You gotta get comfy. You know.
I mean, I guess so.
Wear your comfy slippers. You know, put on some music. You know, put on your bathrobe. You know, gotta make yourself comfortable. Light some candles. You know, Jared, you gotta relax.
That's fair.
Gotta stay breezy.
Maybe that's my problem.
Stay breezy. All right, I'm gonna attempt to say this word. I'm sure I'm gonna say it wrong, but here we go. This is also a Brazilian Portuguese, and it is descascar o abacaxi, which means to peel a pineapple. He peels a pineapple.
Is that like someone's doing a difficult task?
Wow. Hit that ham horn, Jared. Very good.
I imagine peeling a pineapple is quite difficult.
Yeah, it's to deal with a complicated problem.
And for some reason, when I heard that, I also picture them doing it with their hands too.
Right.
I have a this would be Singlish, as they call it. You know, Singapore English. Mm-hmm. And it is blur like satong. And satong is a Malay word for squid.
Give me a clue here, Jared.
I mean, we have a lot of untranslatables for this. You might say someone is blur like satong. So that's what someone is.
They're crazy.
No, I'll give you a hint regarding a related English untranslatable or American. You know, I don't know if they say it in England. They probably do. It involves maybe a light bulb. Blur like satong. Someone is blur like satong.
To get an idea?
No, not that use of a light bulb. Maybe the light bulb isn't turning on all the way.
So something's broken?
Someone who it's someone who's like
stupid.
Yeah, there you go. Someone who is slow at catching on or just generally clueless.
I
blur
see.
like satong.
Okay. Interesting. I have one more for you today, Jared. I'll give you a choice: Cantonese or Brazilian Portuguese.
Cantonese.
All right, here we go. I was hoping you would pick Cantonese. All right.
We already had a couple of Brazilian Portuguese, you know.
Sikling mung. I probably didn't say that right, but sikling mung.
Okay.
To eat lemons.
To eat lemons. Mm-hmm. Is that like to like bite your tongue, like to stop yourself from saying something that you want to say?
No, not really. Although not really. I will say this though, Jared. I think it would be eat. No, that's a bad example. To
eat lemons. Now that's like something. That's like a reaction someone has to something.
No, it's what happens to somebody.
What happens to someone? Oh, okay.
You know he.
They got duped. Got tricked.
Not quite.
Eat lemons, or they failed.
Eat lemons. Oh, you're getting warm. You're so close. You're almost there.
To eat lemons is to make a big mistake, but then
this one I would say could be related to relationships and dating. As a guy, you have probably eaten at least a lemon once before, Jared.
To break up with? They get broken up with?
Kind of. To get rejected.
Oh, okay.
To get rejected to eat lemons.
Yeah. Yeah, I've probably eaten a lemon or two. That's probably fair to say.
Yep. Hey, I have been too, man. Part of life. Part of life.
Of course it is. If you haven't eaten a lemon, you're not taking enough risks.
That's true. Get out there and squeeze the juice and eat the lemons, people. That's for sure. Eat the lemons. But yeah,
speaking of taking risks, by the way.
Yep. City or country living.
Yeah.
Big risks. With both of those in some ways, I guess.
Depending on where you start, you're taking a risk. It might feel like you're taking a risk going to the other one. Yeah, it definitely felt like a risk for me. You know, the first time I really experienced, And yeah, okay. I tasted city living when I studied abroad in Vienna. I lived in an apartment, in a city. I took public transport. But the reason why it's hard for me to fully use that as my example of city living is because I was coddled by things like the study abroad program and my parents and their money. Like I wasn't fully living on my own.
Right, you were being
wasn't fully
financially
responsible.
supported, and you had a lot of support. Both of us did.
Right.
I would agree with you. Well, first of all, though, Jared, what would we define as city and country living?
Good point.
Because like the concept of a city, I feel like is very different cross culturally.
Depends on what you're coming from.
Right. Right, because like in when I was living in the Czech Republic, I lived in Chomutov, and I thought there was like 60, 70,000 people in that area. And then if you counted like the surrounding area, Yirkov, which was like a village next to Chomutov, then I think you could get around 100,000. But then I went to a city in China with I think 150,000 people, and it was
100,000 in China is like a rural village.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. It felt like I was not really in a city like when I was in Jinan or Beijing or Shanghai. They're very different. So I think that's one thing to keep in mind too. Is what do you define as a city?
I don't think it's fully population based. I think it's more density based. So I think of like a sort of like a dense metropolitan area. So obviously there are obvious ones that we all think of: New York, Chicago. Okay. Apparently there aren't a lot of obvious ones. Boston,
right.
These sort of, or places like Shanghai, Beijing, as you said, Berlin, like these sort of obvious.
Prague.
Yeah. These sort of obvious choices. But I think it just comes down to density and then a metropolitan, a lot of industry happening.
Let me give you some background, Jared. This is according to Grammarly.com. The difference between like a village or a city. So the term village comes from a French term referring to a group of buildings. That's exactly what a village is, a small community in a rural area.
Le village.
Exactly. Sometimes larger towns incorporate the houses of a village as a municipality. Village can also refer to inhabitants of a village, blah, 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 blah. But so a city or town. Okay, so town comes from the Old English word that is referred to a walled or fenced place such as a farm, village, or courtyard. Our modern word refers to populated areas with fixed boundaries and a local government. Towns are usually bigger than villages but smaller than cities. The term can also refer to its inhabitants, its townspeople, or as people at Albion used to say, the townies.
Which was insulting, I think. I never used that term.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Based off of what I'm hearing so far, based off of these 13th century definitions.
Can I give you the last definition?
Yeah, sure.
This will put together the complete picture for you. So here's the definition of city. City derives from a French word meaning citizenry. A city is a large or important town. In the United States, cities are incorporated.
That's a loaded word right there, by the way.
Right.
Important.
Yes, I agree with you.
Especially in the U.S.
Right.
Because there is a lot of, the coastal elite vibe, and that's a loaded word.
Everybody in the U.S. thinks they're important, Jared. Let's be honest.
Where do you get your food from? You wouldn't have food if it wasn't for us, you coastal elites. You think you're so important?
That's right. A city is a large and important town in the United States. Cities are incorporated I can't say that word today, Jared. Municipalities, thank you, with local governments. In Great Britain, a borough with a bishop's seat is called a city. So see, there you go, different cultural difference there. A borough with a bishop's seat is called a city. As with words, village, town, and city can refer to its inhabitants, blah, blah, blah. So there you go, though, Jared. So city, the basic definition here, it looks like, is important and a large town.
So based off of what I'm hearing, you in Dexter, Michigan, in your chalet in Dexter, Michigan, live in...
Chateau de Shed.
You would live in a village. Dexter. Well, I guess it used to be called a village. as you like to
Yes.
always say.
Controversial, actually, Jared. Now it is considered a city.
Jeez.
If you Google it, it's crazy.
You always love to talk about this because it does seem like a hot
Back in
button
my
issue.
day, it was called a village, not a city.
These youngins calling this a city. You don't even know. I remember this place. Although when I grew up in Clarkston, and whenever I mention, I haven't lived there in forever since I was in, 6th grade. But whenever I bring up Clarkston to people, I always have to tell them that I live there. I don't know why I always have to say this, but I always have to say I lived there before Great Lakes Crossing. I always have to say that.
Why is that?
I don't know, but I feel like I have to be like, oh no, I knew this place before it was just your normal suburb.
Before it was cool.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I'm the
You're the
6-year-old hipster of Clarkston.
That's right.
Granted, it's still not cool. Let's be honest. So based off of that, you live in a village, and obviously it used to be a village, but now it's been quote unquote promoted.
It's still a village, in my opinion.
I would say then that me in Ferndale, I live in a town.
I would agree with that.
Because I have sort of a, we don't have quote unquote industry here, but we have some companies and stuff. We have a sort of a small downtown area where you can walk around.
Have restaurants and bars and stuff.
Exactly. But still it's not that big, The population, I don't even know what the population is, but it's probably like, slightly under 100,000. Would be my guess. That's actually total random guess. I have no idea how much the population is. The population is 20,000. Not even close.
There you go.
There are colleges that are bigger than my town, but
that's true.
And then I would say when I lived in Philadelphia, that was a city.
No kidding. I would agree with that 100%.
There were a lot of people there. There was a lot of industry. So I would say that was a city, and that's probably how I would break the three down based off of your definitions there.
I would agree. Yeah, I would say Philly is definitely a city. Philly is a city. Chomutov, I would say, is a big town. Where I lived in the Czech Republic, 60,000 people. Like you said, Chomutov had factories and stuff, but I would still say it's a town. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a city. I would say Prague is a city.
And I'd say the important quote-unquote cities usually aren't where the factories are. Usually it's where the headquarters are.
Right.
Like, you don't see a lot of factories in New York or Chicago or...
New York.
No, probably not. Get out of here.
Get out of here with your factories.
Or like DC does not have a bunch of factories in it. The quote-unquote important cities usually aren't where there's like a lot of manufacturing happening.
Right. Well, a lot of the manufacturing happens overseas, too.
Yeah. Also, it's because you need a lot of space,
Right.
Once again, these congested cities, the important congested cities. I love that they just put important in the... That would be so... I feel like that would be so... Like such a hot button issue.
Kind of cocky, isn't it?
If like some news network or something were to like be talking about at Los Angeles or San Francisco or New York or something, like in the more important cities, like and then they would like name just like that
would be great.
Like I could see right now Trump tweeting about that and being like, "See, they don't care about you. This is why you should vote for me."
I went to Philadelphia and New York, the more important cities, before I went to Chicago and Detroit. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, you could definitely ruffle some feathers on that one. That's for sure. Yeah, I think the important aspect of it is a little bit convoluted in a way.
And it's like, what do you consider important? Because I too, obviously understand sort of what they're getting at, but I was making fun of those people like saying, where do you get your food from and stuff, but it's true, like,
sure.
So I'm not totally discounting that those quote unquote flyover states are useless. We're a partial flyover state anyway.
Right. But anyways, we're talking about city and country living.
Let's go through. I guess we can go back and forth. I wrote down some things that I miss about living in Philadelphia.
Let's hear it.
I miss that I use my car less. Now, I'm a car person, so I like the idea of having a car. But I like that I like when, as far as my leisure went, as far as me like going to wanting to go out or something like that, I didn't have to take my car. And there was the headache of parking it, and paying for all that stuff. But even besides for that, it's just that it took so much more responsibility off of going out, because like in Michigan, here where I live, there are some places I can walk to, but the number of places I can go to are relatively limited relative to Philadelphia. Even well, even walking, even if we're just talking about walking. And
Sure.
so I guess that also bleeds into just having more food and drink variety. There's a lot of variety.
Yeah, I think the super nice thing about cities too, Jared, like you mentioned, is being able to get around. And I really miss like public transportation. The trains in China were amazing. Buses in the Czech Republic were pretty good.
Dude.
Trams in Austria, U-Bahn.
We were in Pittsburgh, remember, for last week, and we were doing our walking tour, and my partner, she heard a city bus doing that thing at a stop sign where the air suspension will go like tss and lower, and it'll do like the beep beep, and she's like, "Oh, I missed that noise." And I was like, "Well, you mean the bus like lowering noise?" She's like, "Yeah, I haven't heard that in a long time."
Hey, that's subtle, city living. There's a lot of that's the thing I don't miss, though, I guess, about the city. Now that I've been back kind of living out in the boonies for half a year again, it's quiet out here.
Yeah, dude.
And when I was living in Jinan, I will tell you what, I was in a more quiet area, but China, especially in Beijing, it is not quiet. I forget what the guy used to say, but when I was staying over at my ex's place, there was this guy that would wake up early on like Sundays at like 6 a.m. and he would like be chanting shit. I don't know what the hell he was saying because he was obviously speaking in Chinese, but like, yeah, and you would hear cars and, there's just so much noise in cities.
When I lived in Philadelphia, it was the same thing. I mean, part of the reason I moved to the Harry Potter closet when I lived in Philly, which was, for those of you that weren't around for that era of the podcast, which was essentially a closet, like a storage closet under my staircase, that was very similar to a Harry Potter closet. I moved there partially because of the echo and all that stuff, but partially because that room was right off of a pretty
street,
major
right?
road. And every now and again it would get me, and I'd have like a fire truck going by.
I remember
and actually,
you'd hear the sirens and the cops were coming for you.
When I was interviewing for my job, I was in that room, and a fire truck and fire trucks went by, or police cars went by, and of course it was like a full on like police chase or something, because it was not ending.
Right, just didn't stop.
And just midway through my presentation, I literally just had to be like, Sorry. There's I live in the city.
There's a fire truck driving by me right now. Yeah.
And I literally was like, I live in the city. I'm sorry. I cannot plan for this. And they laughed about it or whatever. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it was annoying.
Right.
But
sure.
So I'm with you. I totally have been in that situation too. And even living in my town that I live in here, it's obviously not as loud as when I lived in Philly, right off of a pretty big road, but still. Especially since I've gotten these AirPods, bro. These AirPods are my first noise canceling headphones, and so sometimes changer. I'll be outside and if you go from noise canceling to like the transparent where they let noise
game changer. It's crazy,
but like you can like hear like a rush of noise coming when they first
weird,
changed over,
yeah.
And it's like. Is this how much noise is happening outside? But then once like you kind of get used to it, it's like, oh yeah, I am just constantly. Because I am, like a minute away from Woodward, and 2 minutes away from 8 Mile, which are two major roads in this area. And it's like, I guess I don't realize that I'm just constantly hearing car noise in the back. Like that's just constant background noise now, and you just don't even recognize it.
Yeah. It's weird, and I even noticed that though here when I have my AirPods on, and if I put it in transparent, just hearing like the birds and like stuff around outside. But I feel like that's a whole different kind of noise than hearing cars
or the tire noise just constantly rushing by. Yeah. So I said more food options.
Yep.
I
do miss that too.
I also miss. So I guess one thing for the countryside that that we like is the quietness. I guess that goes both ways. I miss walking. I miss my city walks. I could because the thing about I love, especially if I have nothing to do on like a Saturday or Sunday, to just go on like a 2 to 3 hour like ridiculously long walk. And in Philadelphia, I could do that and see new stuff every time.
Oh, I believe it.
I was always finding something new, turning down some new road that I never walked down, or like it was just like a great way to learn the city because I learned quickly that it's impossible to get lost. I was never like once I did that, I would never really get I still didn't know how to get to certain places, but I'd be like, oh, I can never get lost. I get it. I get it. That was great.
That's a good feeling too.
Here, yes, it is. You feel like you're finally like sort of like, oh, I'm a resident
your
here
bearings.
now. I'm no longer new here. And so here in Ferndale, I feel like in an hour I could sort of cover the whole thing. And I still especially during this quarantine, it's really become apparent because I'm walking a lot more. Even though I've gotten a little lazy recently, but it's just like I'm seeing the same stuff. I'm just the same houses. I'm walking down the same. It's everything.
Right.
It's hard for me to discover new stuff when I'm around here. So I kind of miss that. I like that. Do you have anything that's come to your mind about your time living in different big cities?
The walking and just overall exploring is great in cities for sure. I think country living. I think you have to have some type of interest or hobby to the point where because it can get so quiet out in the country that if you don't have anything to do, I feel like you would go crazy. For
That's
me,
fair.
For me, it's music and playing guitar and reading and stuff. But for a lot of people out there, I feel like depending on what your hobbies are and your interests and the lifestyle you live, if you're a really social person and you want to get out there and do a lot of stuff, I would say city living is so much better.
I had that on my list. I think it's easier to meet people if you live in a city too.
Oh,
it's
100%.
easier to get into activities or just be at bars in general. It's easier if that's how you want to do it or whatever.
Right. BC at least before COVID.
Yeah, of course. It's interesting that you say that because I like where this is going. I feel like we're getting into a place here where I'm playing team city and you're playing team country.
That's right.
Because I kind of have
boy.
Because when you started saying that, I was like, yeah, I feel like he's about to say that you need a hobby, and I kind of agree with that too. But I think it's a great way to immerse yourself in hobbies because you can. And I think here's a double-edged sword of living in the country. It's easier to have more stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Which can go both positive and negative, of course, because sometimes having stuff is fun to get. I
would even say this, Jared. It's easier to collect more junk over time.
Yes,
because
that's
you have
even
more
better
space.
way to put it.
You
because
have a lot
having
more
stuff
space.
is objectively not good or bad. Because if you're getting something that's of some use to you, then it's not necessarily bad. If you're using it for once again some country hobby that you have, then that's cool, great.
Right.
You got now you have
some
a place to get a nice
woodworking.
Exactly. I was about to say you have a place to get a nice recirculating saw, and you can put it in your garage or your woodworking room,
Your
which
pole
is separate
barn.
from your garage.
If you're talking
But the
real
thing
country.
is, now I'm going to have a rebuttal as a apparently city. Now,
City
I'm starting
slicker?
to feel like. When I first went into this, I was like, I don't know if I'm team city or team country because I've done both.
Oh, I put
But
you
as-
in Team City immediately.
As
Are you
I'm
kidding
having
me?
this as I'm having this conversation with you, I think you're right. I think I'm going team city because I would say something about city living in comparison to country living that I think would be a benefit for city living is generally speaking. This is general. You're gonna if you're in city living, you're gonna have a smaller living space.
Right.
I have found in this house that I live in here, which is about the same price as my apartment was, my one bedroom apartment was in Philly. That before Harry Potter place, that was different. That keeping this place clean is a part-time to full-time job, and I'm always behind.
I believe it.
Always behind. There's like today, I'm like, I know I'm gonna have to do some cleaning. There's always something you have to clean, which is the case obviously in an apartment too. But there's just less areas. Like I feel like I'm cleaning areas I don't even go into. It's like I don't even sit in this room, but this table is disgusting.
I don't know how this is, but it seems like to me as well that like places in the city get dirtier faster. Like my apartment in China got so much dirtier than my apartment in the Czech Republic.
Now I can imagine that if you're leaving windows open at about the same amount of time, there is a higher chance for a dust buildup, especially in a place where you're living where there's a lot of pollution. Maybe there's a higher rate of dust buildup, just because there's more vehicle traffic and pollution
Right.
happening, and so I could imagine that being a thing. Maybe I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could relate to that specifically, but I definitely know that I like the idea when I first was looking for places in Philly. When I knew I was moving to Michigan and I was in Philly, going to Michigan looking for places. I was getting so excited looking at houses. Like, I'm gonna have so much space. This is gonna be awesome. And then it's still great, but I'm just like, I don't need this much. Like, I could probably cut out a third of this house and have the space that I actually use.
Right. Rent out your guest room. There you go. Then you'll have less space.
I don't want that either. And that's another good thing about country living is there's less need in general for a roommate.
Right. Well, I think when I think of country living, I think of more a slower pace of living. Either you have your own place or you live with your family. Whereas a city, I feel like because it's so much more expensive, you might have a roommate or two roommates, depending on the place you live in. I can tell you what, man. Unless I'm dating somebody for a while, I don't really want to have roommates if I can avoid it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once you go no roommate, it's hard to go back.
Right. I mean, I haven't had a roommate since we were in Vienna our junior year of college. That was the last time I've really had a roommate.
Vienna,
so that was 2013.
Because then we had that suite, and when we lived in our fraternity,
right? And I had my own room to myself back then.
Right.
So yeah. So yeah. I think the other thing with city living, I think for a young person, I think every young person should at least spend a couple of years living in a city, because I think there's certain things you kind of get to see and get to know a lot of different people if you are social, which I think it's just really important. It's really important to meet a lot of people throughout your journey in life. It's important to meet a lot of people and hear their stories and learn from them. And
I think that's still kind of a regret for me as far as living in Philly. I didn't
you were
take
in your own little bubble, weren't you, Jared?
I didn't take full enough of advantage of my ability to get out of my shell,
And a city's a good place for that. I think the country is like, when I think of my life and if I could choose where to live, like if money was no object, I could choose where to live, I would still pick the country, and I would pick somewhere in the country that was close enough where if I wanted to get out to the city, I could easily do that and come back, or even overnight in the city and then come back in the morning.
I would like to set up like that where it would also have to involve maybe like Chicago or New York. And the only reason I bring up those cities is because if I'm doing that, I like that idea too. You need to be able to go into the city without public transportation. I mean, excuse me, with public transportation is what I meant to say.
Yeah, that would be a big plus for sure. Absolutely. I think the city is really good as well for getting more job experience and also figuring out what you want to do, right? Because there's just more opportunities, generally speaking, in a city than there are out in the country, generally. Unless you want to do agriculture or farming or something like that. And if you do, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think the beauty with the city is you can try out a lot of different things. You like you said, you have more food variety. I think you have more job variety if you're in a city that has a really, kind of booming infrastructure, and stuff like that.
There's also I agree with you, and you're almost kind of speaking to the stereotype that those that don't leave their small towns get, or their villages get, and I feel like sometimes you can. I don't want to say you can smell it on them, but it's just
a slippery slope, Jared.
It's just I don't know this. It's also the best way to experience like new cultures. I think that's a good thing about being in big cities is you need to. I think everyone needs to be exposed to new cultures. I think it's a vital part of sort of like human, sort of just developing as a person, and I think that's some people get too proud of their little small towns that they never leave. You know,
You
It's
can
like,
definitely smell it on them, like you said, Jared. Yeah, people who what's to brag about? Like, I just don't get the people who never leave. It's like, why didn't you leave? You know, were you too afraid to go experience other places and see if something, you know,
And,
I don't know.
I'll say this, to be fair, I think city people have that too. Because I listen
That's
to a lot
true.
of podcasts, and I
That's
hear
true.
a lot of New Yorkers like, oh, why do I have to go see any work? They're like, well, I got everything I need right
got
here in the
everything
greatest
in New
country.
York.
This is the greatest city in the world. We got everything we need. It's like,
Right.
I don't need to see another city. It's like, you call those skyscrapers? Or it's like, there are,
Right.
like, believe it or not, there are other things to experience in the world besides New York City, you know? You don't,
Right.
And so I don't want to even just put it on like those quote unquote country folk, because I think it is. I think some city people
You get both.
do that too.
You definitely get both. Yeah, I would agree with you. That's a great point. But I think the key too is what kind of a lifestyle do you want to live? You know, if you want to be in the hustle and bustle, I would say a city is a great place to experience that. But
Yeah.
would you rather have maybe a bit more of a kind of, I know it's stereotypical, but more of a slow down, laid back, kind of where it's more quiet and you know, I feel like too a lot of
it is
people
stereotypical, but it's true.
right.
I mean,
Yeah.
like I even like obviously when you walk around, there's a lot more happening around you. You go to a grocery store, and there's just a lot more people there. Lines are generally longer. You know, like it's just a lot more activity always happening around you.
Right. I think the beauty with being out in the country, for me at least, it's nature and it's peace. It's peaceful.
I think for me, it's peace and price. I would now I guess I did have a car, so that's part of it.
You trying to buy a house out in the boonies somewhere with me, Jared?
With you, you want to live with me for the rest of your life?
Hey,
We
this
could have, like,
doesn't mean we got to live there forever. Just a couple of years.
Oh, it's actually funny that you say that, because I was going to say we could have our own little Joe Rogan studio ranch
We
in
could.
Texas somewhere. I was actually going to mention, it seems, that's all the rage these days, the celebs leaving the city to go to the country. There's been a lot of talk about that. One of them was Joe Rogan, who, all the, famous
Moved out to
podcaster
Texas.
who moved to Austin, Texas, and he's got some land out there now. And there's also a bunch of comedians have that I listen to a whole bunch of podcasts and stuff. Even Ben Shapiro, famous wet ass P word, has moved to is moving his operation to Nashville, I believe, which is still, interestingly enough, a Democratic mayor city.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me. Got a lot of liberals and musicians out there. Doesn't surprise me.
But I just think it's funny that Ben Shapiro was like, I need to get out of this liberal city that's destroying
to a liberal city.
Yeah,
Right. Oh, it's weird, but
the liberals are destroying this country. So their reasons that I've noticed are obviously financial reasons. A lot of these people have a lot of money, and they'll talk about the tax reason. And then there's also the safety reason. There's been a lot of talk about safety, like these LA people especially seem like they're terrified that looters are going to come to their house. There's been a lot. I feel like there's a lot of talk about safety, especially since the beginning of this quarantine in general. I feel like there's been a lot more like gun talk, and like a lot more people open to getting guns.
I've thought about it.
Here at my house, I often it's essentially turned into a joke, because I don't think there's going to be any budging room here. But I always talk about how how everything would be a lot better if we had a Mossberg, which is a shotgun. And I always talk about, like, if we hear a noise in the middle of the night, I'll be like, man, if I had the Mossberg. But safety is a big one that I think people are afraid of when they're living in the city. Interestingly enough,
Although if you've seen any horror movie, I feel like it always happens out in the middle of nowhere.
I've been camping. When I lived in Philadelphia, I went camping with one of my friends, and we were joking how we were terrified in the woods whenever we heard a noise. And it's like, we live in a city where we're way more likely to
Be robbed or murdered.
Yeah, in the city than we would in this middle of nowhere town in Delaware.
Right.
Yeah, we're terrified of every wood crack that we hear.
I will say this though too, Jared, about living in the country. One drawback is I think you really have to plan regarding timing of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, if you're really out in the boonies, like grocery shopping, getting stuff delivered, ordering something online might take a lot longer if you're in the middle of nowhere.
Going to quote unquote town in general, like if
Right,
you want,
right.
going to see other people, like your friends are probably like, unless you're friends with your neighbor only. I don't know. Some other reasons that I've seen these celebs are moving is avoiding the mental and physical drain of the quote unquote industry, especially a lot of these Hollywood types, you know. It seems like there's especially with this quarantine, and a lot of these people are podcasters or you know, or they are comedians. So it's like, do I really need to be in this city to?
Hollywood just seems like a toxic environment, I feel like.
Yeah, I guess so. Especially not Hollywood. I would say the entertainment industry. Is more what I think you mean.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because, you know, there are normal people that live there, too, that just have normal jobs and stuff.
Right.
More space, obviously, as we've talked about, and more quote-unquote freedoms. That's, you know, just whether it be, as we mentioned, guns or, you know, freedom of speech, and, you know, nervous that, I don't know, it's just a lot of freedoms. People seem to have a lot of fear that liberals are taking people's freedoms. Or it's like they just
I don't
want
have
to turn
an
us
answer for that one.
I mean, I don't either. I'm not saying I'm not. Do you agree with them? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. No.
No, I'm just kidding.
Definitely not.
So, I don't know. I
think those are all valid reasons, though. Really.
I wonder though if the pandemic is, and not just on a celebrity level, but I wonder if the pandemic will lead to people second guessing living in their cities because of things like because of, you know, the increase of working from home that's happening, especially in these sort of San Francisco jobs, you know, and like in these tech industry jobs where it's like, oh, if I'm working for Twitter and I can work anywhere, why would I live in San Francisco? Because there's no reason. Besides for the place that it's the fact that it's a cool city. Financially, there's really no reason for you to live there. You know,
it's
there's
expensive,
no financial benefit to living there. And so I think it's just, I feel like, I don't know. I just wonder if it'll make people second guess, or if it'll lower or I guess it could be both, or if it would lower property values in cities. Yeah, so maybe we won't. I don't know, but cities will still be more sought after than country, regardless of the timing. So I guess that won't really change too much.
Will they though? I wonder if there'll be a cultural shift, because I think right now a lot of people are happy living in an apartment. But, you know, I think at one point, and still culturally we see this in the U.S., where a lot of people want to buy a house. They want their own house, right? I wonder if there's a bigger shift of people really either. I think it could go both ways. It could go the one way where everyone's like, you know what? I want to have my own little plot of land, my own little chunk of heaven, right? Or you could have the other view would be like, you know what? That's a lot of work. I don't want to deal with that. I just want to rent and have an apartment. So if I wanted to leave and move to a different city next week or next month, I could do that, you know?
Yeah, more mobile. You want to be mobile.
Right. Whereas I think if you choose the country you live in, you're, in a way, I guess you could be mobile, but you still have that home base.
A base.
Right.
See, but once we start talking about having a base and then somewhere else to go, that involves some level of money there.
Right.
To be like, oh yeah, I mean, this is but that really would be my dream, as I said at the beginning of the pod, is the base in some sort of, maybe not Nashville. I just pulled that out of nowhere.
I mean, Tennessee's beautiful.
Not that I have a problem with it. I mean, I remember when I went to the Smoky Mountain Park. That was gorgeous. I would love to have a piece of land out there, or North Carolina or something like that. But I like the idea of having land and then like a condo. If I was living my ideal life, and for some reason I keep it U.S. centric. I wouldn't mind having like a city living, you know, in like outside of a city in a different country too. I have kept it U.S. centric, but I don't think that what we're talking about changes too much, regardless of where you're at.
I don't think so either. But Jared, I think we should talk about our song of the pod today. What do you think?
Sure.
So our song of the pod today is called Pelota, which is Spanish for ball, by the group Khruangbin, which is they're quite an interesting group.
Khruangbin.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that name right.
I feel like I've heard that name before.
I don't know. We might have come across their music one way or another somehow. But yeah, so this song is really interesting. Here, let me.
Do you know they're actually from Houston, Texas? Speaking of getting some land,
right? No kidding. Yeah, they aren't. That's the interesting thing is they have some titles, song titles in Spanish. This is one of them. The lyrics are really kind of funny. Here,
are the lyrics in English? Did I not listen closely enough to the song?
No, they're in Spanish.
Okay, I thought I was like, did I miss something? Are you listening to the song right now?
Yeah,
is that what's happening?
Of course I am. So the song. Well, first of all, I think there's like 4 people in the group. At least the videos I've seen of them live, though, I for sure see a drummer, a bassist, and a guitar player. Laura, she's the singer and the bass player, lays down some really good bass lines, first of all. They're super funky. This one, Pelota, has kind of that kind of Spanish Latin vibe to it.
Yes. I like it. It was good.
With the bass line. But anyways, here, let me read the words to you, Jared. At least this is from someone on... This is according to Google Translate that someone posted in the YouTube video comments. I'm a ball of soot. You were lost in a surreal house. I became a demon who had a seed. The seed was plucked for the help of my family. Right now, I can be a ball. I want to be pure. I want to be pure truth, but I want to love the disaster that is mine. So these words are really interesting. But yeah, they have a lot of really great music.
It seems way more positive than that.
Right? I really like this one caught my eye, though, because the video is really kind of trippy. It's all kind of animated.
I like the video, too.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
And it seems like they have a few videos animated in that style, too. That's not the only video that they do like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. They also have an NPR Tiny Desk concert. They're absolutely fantastic. Khruangbin, no idea what that name means or how they came up with it.
I think it's Khruangbin. That's my guess.
You're probably right. Yeah, you're probably right.
Oh, here it is. It's Khruangbin. I'm looking at their Wikipedia.
Oh, nice.
All right. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, they have
choice.
some super stylish songs that like they kind of mold a couple different genres together into one, which is really cool. Makes it kind of their own sound. Which is great. So check that out on our Song of the Pod playlist. Khruangbin, Pelota. You will not be disappointed. That is for sure. So to sum up today's country living and city living, I would say for the most part, I would say I am 70% team country and 30% team city.
Really?
Yeah. I would even maybe go as far as 80% country, 20% city.
Whoa.
Yeah. So you better put a cowboy hat and a piece of straw coming out of my mouth for the thumbnail on YouTube for this video here, Jared.
Man. I don't know if I'm that good.
I see you do it on Instagram at least. You put the little emojis and stuff on. Anyways, I will tell you why though, Jared.
Yeah, I can do it.
I will tell you why though. Is because I really like the more peaceful style of living. Lately, it hasn't bothered me as much as it used to actually just have a longer drive to go somewhere. I had to drive almost an hour to pick up something for work a couple days ago. And
now it's nice because you rarely leave the house.
Right. Well, maybe that's why.
I generally go to your house every week, and I might get annoyed with that drive if I was going to work every day too. But now I'm like, this is great. I love it.
That's true. That's a good point. That is a good point. But I like the peace and quiet. Also, at some point, I would like to have, as Jared mentioned, some property out in the country somewhere. I don't know. I would rather have a place out in the country rather than have a small apartment in the city. But that's just me.
I get that. Well, all right. You're 80-20. I'm 80-20 country versus city. I'm probably, I'm going to say 75 city, 25 country. No.
Okay.
I'm going to say 65-35 city to country. I lean towards city, but I see, but
You see the benefits in country?
I don't want to totally give up the country, you know?
That's
also,
fair.
now in this, you know what? I'm actually going to bump it down to 70-30, especially in this political climate that we're living in, because seeing Trump signs really ruins my day.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't blame
And
you.
you're more likely to see them in the country than the city.
You definitely are. And the people out in the country, I think, are definitely a different breed than the people living in the cities. That is for sure.
Yeah.
But anyways, let us know what you think about city and country living at untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com. You can slide into our DMs on Twitter, untranslatable1, the number 1. Check us out on Instagram, Untranslatable Podcast.
Yeah.
And please, 5-star reviews on iTunes and Stitcher. Let us know how we can make this podcast better for you. So as we say at the Untranslatable Podcast, maybe you say it too. I hope you do. Say it with me. Dziękujemy, muchas gracias, shusha, and dos vidania.